Hello everyone, I am the Basement Dweeb, you can call me Nova, and today we will be talking about Fruits Basket, the final, episode 9, What's Your Name? Real quick reminder, if you haven't done so already, to hit the subscribe button, like the video, leave a comment down below, share it on Twitter, tag me at the Basement Dweeb, and without further ado, let's get right into it. So, fun fact, I have been waiting for this particular episode for a good year and a half, at least, because, I did read the manga ahead for this. I haven't read the entire manga, but I read, like, the last, I think I read volumes 10, 11, 12 for the collector's editions. I don't know if I read, I read volume 10, 11, 12. I was like, did I read volume 10? It's like, yeah, I did. So I had read those because I was bored one day, and I saw that they had these collector's editions at my local library, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to read these. Because I'm one of those people that's like, sometimes I like to read ahead in things and spoil myself just because sometimes I'm impatient, and I'm like, I want to know how it ends. Because I had watched, actually, no. We're going to go over my whole history with Fruits Basket because that's going to be its own video once the final season is over. But, yeah. So I read volumes 10, 11, 12 late in 2019. A couple of months before season 2 of the remake aired. And I saw what happened in this episode. I read it and I was like, oh my gosh. And then, because season 2 wasn't even on the brain at that point. I was just like, okay, yay. I was like, oh my gosh, yay, it's so good. And then, I realized this was coming up, and then I saw the preview images, and I'm like, this is what's happening. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be this episode. And it didn't disappoint. Oh my gosh, this episode, I'm not even kidding, unironically, this might be the best episode of Fruits Basket ever of the remakes. Well, overall, but like, if we're talking specifically about the remake, this might be the best episode of the remake ever. The episode with Kyo's true form is up there, but this might be the best episode ever, just as a general rule. In my personal opinion, I think. Anyway, sorry, I'm kind of in my emotions this episode. Like, it's interesting, because the first half just kind of yanks your beating heart out, and then, like, the latter half kind of just puts it back in and stitches you back up. It's an interesting feeling, that only Fruits Basket can give you. But yeah, we're just gonna get right into the meat and potatoes of this video, because it's gonna be not really. I'm not gonna do a scene play by play. I'm mostly gonna be talking about the kind of big scenes that happen, the important bits. So obviously we have to talk about we have to talk about Kyo later, but we have to talk about the Toru Akito showdown kind of thing, because I'm like, oh my gosh, the feels, the facade is gone, everything is gone. All that we are left with is a very hurting girl who doesn't want to move forward, who is terrified of the unknown, and a girl who is also terrified. Okay, the thing I love is Toru and Akito, and I've said this a while ago, that Toru and Akito, there were some parallels there. And Toru brings this up, she's like, oh, as I, decried your eternity, I was wishing for the same thing, eternal bonds, forever unchanging, with her mom. But the difference is between Toru and Akito is that Toru wants to move forward. She is attempting to move forward. She is terrified, but she is pushing through that fear. Akito doesn't know how to push through that. She is afraid of the unknown, just like Toru, but she is having such a hard time because she's never not had these bonds, not had this guarantee of being loved by the other Zodiac members. Without being God, she doesn't know if there will be people. She thinks that if she isn't the God of the Zodiac, if she doesn't have these bonds, these guarantees, she's going to be completely alone. Like she said to Momiji when his curse broke. She was like, oh, without the bonds, you'll be alone. And he's like, I think that's what you're afraid of. And she's like, get out. And I'm like, yep, Akito, you're not fooling anybody. You're not fooling anybody. But yeah, everything is gone. All bets are off at this point. Akito is just completely out of it. She says multiple times the end is here because the end is so close. Because she's like, oh no, they're all going to leave me. And, Toru's just like, no, it's okay, I finally found you. And Akito's like, no! And when she started slashing and slapping Toru around, I was like, no, my girl, no, Toru! Ah! I was so like, no, not the precious bead! I'm like, but here's the thing, I was more worried about Toru than I was angry at Akito, because at this point, I'm not really angry at Akito because I pity Akito more than anything else. Like, I've never hated her outright. I was one of those things where I had moments where I hated her, but overall, I just pitied her more than anything else. But with this episode, even when she was slapping Toru around, I was like, I didn't really hate her in that moment, because for me, it was more a thing where she was just lashing out in fear, because that's the only thing she knows how to do. She doesn't know how to accept comfort, because she's just never had that. She's never had people genuinely care about her beyond being the god of the zodiac, if that makes sense. Like, and they bring this up in the episode, you know? Like, Toru brings it up, you know, like, she was special, you know, born to be loved. Not a part of the circle, but above it. So she's always been alone. Even though she had these bonds, you know, these people that were tethered to her, she was still always alone because she wasn't a part of the circle. She wasn't a part of the zodiac. She was above the zodiac. And then, you know, throughout the episode, they bring up, you know, Toru, you know, being like, you know, hey, wanting to go and sit next to Akito, not, you know, above her or below her, just next to her, be like, hey, I found you, there you are. And I was like, oh, my heart, my poor girl, my heart. And, you know, there's some running and some screaming, and they end up by a cliff, and Toru's like, you know what, we got off on, you know, why don't you start over with me? I think we got off on the wrong foot. Hi, my name is Toru Honda. What's your name? I'd like to be your friend. And then Akito's like, no, you're a liar. You know, if I cry, you'll, you know, get tired of me. If I complain, you'll throw me out of your life and stuff. And I'm just like, okay, Toru would never do that. I understand her fear, but Toru would never do that. But, you know, she's like, you know, hey, it's okay, you know, we can be friends and all that. And then Akito's like, you know what? Like, kind of reaching her hand out. And then the cliff crumbles. And I knew this was coming because, again, I have read that chunk of the manga. But I still wasn't ready for it. No. And, like, but it wasn't, and obviously, you know, it wasn't Akito's fault. But it's funny because, like, Shigure, obviously, they assume that she pushed her. And she's like, no, I didn't. But I did stab Kurano and stuff. And it's just like, okay, Akito. Okay, it's a whole mess. Akito is a disaster, and the phone call with Hattori, and then Kyo coming in and being like, Toru fell off a cliff? Nani? And just running and, you know, freaking out. And then there's blood on Toru, and she hit her head. And he's like, it's like his nightmares from like 2 weeks ago. And I'm just like, no, my boy doesn't need that. And then Toru's just like, don't cry. Like, even when she's like lying there, like, maybe dying, her first thought is, don't cry. Whoever's crying, someone's crying, and they need to don't cry. And I'm just like, you're too good for this world, Toru. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I'm all in my emotions over here. It's a whole thing. But so yeah, which that leads nicely, very nicely, into the scene that I have been waiting the most for. They finally kissed! I have been waiting 2.5 seasons for that. That was mostly what I was waiting for this episode. Like, this entire episode was just amazing and complete fire. But, like, that one scene, I was just like, I have been waiting for 2.5 seasons for that episode. For that, like, 2-second moment. And it didn't disappoint. It exceeded my expectations. My joy is immeasurable and my day is saved. My heart has been ripped out and it has been just completely fixed. Oh, it's an entire thing. And then, you know, kind of after all of that, we get, you know, the recovery. The Toru goes to the hospital. You know, she's worried about Kyo, and she's like, you know, does it reach you? I want you to keep moving forward even if I'm not there. You know, I'm going to move, you know, talk earlier in the episode, she was talking about her mom, you know, being like, hey mom, I met someone, I fell in love. I'm sorry to leave you, but I'm going to keep moving forward with him and all of that. This whole episode is basically about moving forward, you know, keep moving forward, meet the Robinsons quote, A. But, yeah. This entire episode is about moving forward and change and being a better person. And I love that by the end of it, you know, Momiji is right, though. Like, you know, he meets Akito at the end of this because she went to the hospital to go visit Kurano because, thank the Lord, I mean, I knew, but, like, thank the Lord, my man is okay. My man is okay. Oh, my gosh. Ugh. And, like, I knew he was okay, but I was like, yay, but it's still one of those things where I'm like, it's been a hot minute since I've read the manga. It's been like a year and a half, and I'm like, he was okay, right? And I'm like, I was pretty sure he was okay, but I'm like, I'm not 100%, so I'm like, yay, he's not dead. I am very happy about that. But yeah, like, she goes, she apologizes, and she's realizing, and I love that Akito realizes, like, hey, yeah, I'm kind of a crappy person. But, you know, and Momiji is kind of just talking to her through that, you know, just being like, hey, yeah, it's a good thing, you know, like, and Akito's like, oh my gosh, they're idiots. Why aren't they, like, pressing charges or anything? Like, why aren't they, like, you know, angry at me or something? And, what are they, morons? And you know, Momiji's like, it's a good thing they're morons, because they're not going to press charges, because they're nice. And Akito's like, just doesn't say anything, and she's like, he right, though? Oh my gosh. Momiji is wonderful. I love Momiji so much. And he's like, you know what? It sucks, you know, life sucks, but here, you know, just gives her a hanky because she's crying. And, you know, because Akito, you know, is like, oh my gosh, I hate myself so much. I'm just the worst. And he's like, okay, yeah, life sucks sometimes. You know, keep moving forward, treasure, you know, Kurano and Toru, and try to, you know, be better for them. And then he, you know, sits down and tells her the story of the idiotic traveler. She goes to see Toru. The ED plays. I didn't go over everything, but that's kind of just my basic thoughts on the video. I am very, very curious to see what happens next week, because the worst is over. The worst of the heart-rending drama is over, which I am very happy about, because I don't know if I could have taken another week, another, like, 2 or 3 weeks of, pain. But yeah, I love, like, the first, you know, I really liked how the tone shift, like, the tone shift worked really well. It didn't feel, you know, like, jarring or anything, you know, like, it was very, very downhill for a little while, and then it, you know, it kind of ticked up, and by the end of it, I'm like, okay, things are looking up. We're getting close to the end, but things are looking up. You know, there's hope. I think everything's probably going to be okay. I was just very, very, very happy that things were looking up, and it was just overall, again, I think probably this is my favorite episode of Fruits Basket ever. Like, again, the episode, the two-parter, episodes 23 and 24 of season 1 with Kyo's true form are pretty high up there, or 24 and 25, maybe the last, like, 23, 24, and 25. Those episodes are high up there. But I do think this is probably, if not my favorite episode ever, definitely, like, top 5 favorite episodes from Fruits Basket. I loved this episode so much. If I gave it a rank, this would be an S tier episode. Absolutely wonderful. Love Akito's character development. Loved the Kyoru kiss. I have been waiting, again, 2.5 seasons for that. Did not disappoint. Just overwhelmingly, I am very happy. But yeah, I think I'm going to wrap up the video here. Sorry, I was kind of all over the place. It was a very emotional week. Some of the emotions were good, some of the emotions were bad. But yeah, I'm going to be linking my Patreon and my Twitter down below. Subscribe, like the video, leave a comment. I still don't have a proper outro. See you in the next one. Support me on Patreon, follow me on Twitter. Have a good week. Bye!